Hey everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea time. So, into the news. For once, the worst piece of news I can give you is not actually politics related, so yay for that. I kind of slightly wish it was, because then it wouldn't be in my bedroom. Okay, so, more or less over the course of last week, we were noticing there was this distinct foul odor sort of permeating the bedroom of the fox den a little bit, and then on Saturday night, literally like right before D&D started, we noticed the carpet was wet. And I recognized the scent relating to the dampness of that carpet, and oh boy, did it only get worse over the course of the night. Basically, what happened was, some irresponsible so-and-so has been flushing things that shouldn't be flushed. Not in this building, as near as we can tell, just in a building, because the pipe that runs directly underneath the fox den's rear end goes into the main sewage, right, has sewage outlets. So consequently, if somebody flushes something that they shouldn't, then it goes down our route either way. And over the course of presumably a year or so, that has resulted in a blockage. And our piping isn't exactly secured properly, so the first time it did that, all that we had was sewage coming up through the toilet, where it's supposed to be, and the shower, where it's not supposed to be, but where we can deal. This time it resulted in a backing up out of the manhole that's directly located underneath our bed. Now, thankfully, at that stage, it did not involve actual literal poop. It was just sewage water that was seeping out of the manhole and into the carpet and releasing that foul stench. So we called Northumbria Water, and they very kindly, they were not obligated to do this, but they very kindly stopped by and unclogged it. Unfortunately, due to the necessity of having to create a pressure differential to unclog it, actual raw human sewage, the donors of which I can only say are anonymous, seeped up into the bathroom. More unfortunately, however, it did not do so through the toilet or the shower this time. It did so through the floor around the toilet. I did mention our plumbing isn't exactly properly secured, didn't I? It's embedded in concrete as well, which means it's going to be a massive pain to actually fix that if anyone ever actually tries to. But Northumbrian Water did happen to elucidate us on the fact that this plumbing is not meant to be inside a residence of any kind. It probably was in a backyard before the place got renovated, and now it's inside and no one bothered to change it. So, for example, the manhole that covers that particular pipe should actually be basically watertight. It's actually a manhole that you would find in the street, more precisely. So we are currently ringing around trying to get this sorted out because this is getting ridiculous. I had to shell out 100 quid last time, and this time I thankfully didn't have to pay anything, but I get the feeling I'm going to be paying either way. Yeah, it ain't great, but this was a 100-plus-year-old shop front before we got here, and it was recently renovated, so some teething pains were kind of expected. But I would like it to not involve a diaper. But anyways, as a consequence of all that, the fox den pretty much smelled entirely of actual sewage, and it was disgusting and rendered uninhabitable for the most part. So we camped out in my office here in the foxhole for the last few days, and we got I got the wonderful, wonderful experience of having to shovel by hand, gloved hand, thankfully, actual human sewage into a bag and get rid of it from the bathroom. Can't get rid of all of it because it's still underneath the floor. And we got a number of new air freshening options. And the place is now habitable once again. But oh boy, that was an experience, and that's led to me being really off-kilter this week. So my content is behind, and even this video is late, I know. So hopefully nothing goes further wrong this coming week, and I can get a bit more on top of things, but we'll see. But beyond that disgusting tale, it is a new month, which means it's new patrons. We have a number of new patrons. We have a significant increase in patronage, so thank you very much for that. We are inching ever closer to the 1K mark where we get the P.O. Box, which I'm very, very excited to try and do. I did realise we actually need to hit the P.O. Box mark once a year, because it's cheapest to buy the P.O. Box for an entire year rather than on a monthly or like every other month kind of basis. But nonetheless, it would be nice to get past that point in a more stable situation. Anyways, with that, welcome to new patrons, and I'll catch you all in the schedule next. On Thursday at 11 PM GMT, we have Midnight, where we're once again playing some more Dark Souls over at twitch.tv/lyinginbedone. We also have an episode of The Lost Hands, as Lord Ignalane the Inquisitor takes on Alexis to rewrite history. On Friday, it's an episode of Dungeon Maker, as we try and get some progress in slime hunting. On Saturday, it's an episode of Dungeons & Dragon Hats at 9 PM GMT over at twitch.tv/thedragonhat. On Monday, it's an episode of Spring Realms as we check on the dungeon progress of the Great Harbour and look more into how we're going to work out this bodiless boss. On Tuesday, it's Yog Dwarves Live number 78 because we weren't able to have it this past Tuesday at 9 PM GMT over at twitch.tv/lyinginbedone. We also have an episode of Edgington where we talk about being strange and things take a dramatically dark turn. Lastly for the week, on Wednesday is an episode of Mating Due, as there are plans to flee the project. And on to the questions. So these are of course drawn from the comment section of the preceding video, so if you have anything to ask me, leave it down below and we'll see if we get answered next week. Our first question of the week comes from Crystal Enderheart. Are there any trans lyings? There definitely are. A number of the forbidden lyings especially are gender fluid or even asexual. The maid, for example, is asexual. There haven't been any male to female or female to male lyings that have been written just yet, but going forward I do intend to include more diversity. That's why the forbidden lyings exist, to add some in a sort of a bulk, but currently there aren't any of that particular brand of being trans. There are fluids and aces though. Chronicler Wolfram asks, does the witch keep reconstructing horror settings out of interest or habit? It's a bit of both. The bulk of their knowledge on horror still stems from horror movies, and they aim to be the epitome and the embodiment of horror, so that's what they reference. And that then means that, yeah, they do still enjoy horror movies, so they do still try to make those horror sets over and over. It's sort of a recurrent thread of just where they started out, and it's a nice little character trait that I like to keep alive occasionally. Lastly for the week, Marvelous Holt asks, which lying is the best dancer? Personally, I'm a terrible dancer, but that's my opinion and people don't seem to believe that a lot. A lot of the lyings, though, are decent dancers in one style or another. Sir Harrister can do pretty well in ballroom dancing, and a fair few have their own particular styles as well. For general freestyling, like if you were just to have like an uncoordinated here's a song, start dancing, Ilmon Young, otherwise known as Bloodlying, is the best dancer, which is sort of a cultural thing, I think, more for him than anything else. But if you're looking for pop and lock expertise, that is to say, if you're looking for someone who can do the robots, debatedly that particular one goes to Ilmon Harrister, otherwise known as Cyborg Lying. And that is it for the week, so hope you've enjoyed. I won't have to have any more foul stenches pervading my airspace, and I'll catch you all